It was August 1st, 2010. A 12-year-old boy and his friend were playing with a slingshot at this Roseville park when one of the boys was hit in the chest. Carter Guyan later died. 3 years later, in her only TV interview, Carter's mom is talking with our Jessica Miles about this rare but very real condition and the message that she wants to get out.
The last time I saw him, he was pulling a red radio flyer down our street out the front windows full of balls and gear.
12-year-old Carter Guyan was on his way to the park with a buddy. It was just down the street from his house. They were boys being boys, playing with a slingshot.
He was really scientific, very bright, very mathematical, and I'm sure that he was working on the trajectory and trying to get it higher.
What happened next, his family can only wonder.
We think that he laid down and then he could move out of the way, when it came back, and the rock hit him in the chest.
Guyan was rushed to the hospital, but died.
It's just like fate just at that moment said, you're done.
To a mom with few answers, it seemed like fate. But in actuality, it was Commotio Cordis. The rock from that slingshot hit Carter exactly over the heart. It hit at a very specific time during the heartbeat, and it sent him into cardiac arrest.
It's mysterious, counterintuitive, sounds impossible, but it's real.
Dr. Barry Marin does research for the Minneapolis Heart Institute Foundation. He is one of the world's leading experts on Commotio Cordis.
Most people have never heard about this risk, whether it be during sports or everyday living, but it is real, and it is a relatively newly recognized cause of sudden death.
Dr. Marin says it typically impacts the young, those under the age of 25, with a peak age being 13. He says it has nothing to do with genetics or heart disease, but has everything to do with the timing of the blow to the heart.
It's 15 milliseconds or 1% of the time that any single cardiac cycle or beat lasts. So it is a real limited portion of the heartbeat.
He says it's most common in young athletes, those playing baseball, hockey, or lacrosse. The fastest growing sport in the U.S. and Minnesota.
Oh, that's not bad.
Scott Hugdahl sits on the U.S. Lacrosse Board of Directors. He also coaches. On this day at practice, he was talking to a group of 10-year-old boys about the condition.
A very rare thing that can happen to some young boys if you get hit right here, right when your heart is between your heartbeats. Go!
As a sport, lacrosse has taken the initiative to partner with an organization that offers automatic external defibrillators, or AEDs, at a reduced price to teams, from $1,600 down to $700.
Although it is very rare, again, the fatality rates are so high, and it's, the solution's pretty simple. And relatively inexpensive.
If an AED is used within the first few minutes, experts say it can shock the heart back into a normal rhythm. Dr. Marin says there's been a striking increase in survivors over the last 2 decades, thanks to better education and greater availability of AEDs.
When we started almost 2 decades ago, the survivability would have been about 15%, 15% only. Now the registry shows a survivability of about 55%.
For parents, the news provides comfort.
I think there's risks with any sport that you do and risks of injuries, but knowing that there's awareness of this and knowing about it and knowing that they have taken precautions is definitely encouraging.
Carolyn Guyan says education is key, and she hopes people learn about this condition, whether they play sports or not.
It doesn't happen often, but when it does, you need to react right away. It was my husband's idea to put the words in there.
The Guyans built this memorial for their son at the park. It's a water and sand area, drinking fountain, and bench. Carolyn comes here weekly.
Sometimes I sit here and I close my eyes and I imagine the last things that he heard before he died. A tennis ball bouncing back and forth, or just the wind and the birds.
She says it's the place she feels most connected to her son, who was so full of life and who died too soon.
He was an idea guy. He always had a lot of ideas, and he was the fun. He was the F in fun. And I love that about him.
Well, you can go to KSTP.com for more information on the AED program through U.S. Lacrosse. You'll find it under our links page at KSTP.com. Dave.